My fiancé said, "Babe, the family vacation is canceled. We're having financial issues right now." I believed her until I saw on Instagram that she had flown to Hawaii with her kids a month later. She came to me and asked for $200,000. I handed her something and said, "Take this instead." She looked at it and fainted. My name is Daryl. I'm 32 and I make my living as an artist. Not the kind people in my family ever respected, either. I paint covers for indie books, do private commissions, murals when the offer is good, and the occasional portrait for rich people who want to look softer on canvas than they do in real life. It pays well now. It did not always pay well. That part matters. I am the oldest son in my family, which in practice meant I was the one expected to stay calm, pay when things got awkward, and act understanding when other people lied to my face. My mother called it being mature. My younger sister called it being the reliable one. My uncle used to clap me on the shoulder and say, "Daryl will figure it out. He always does." Translation: if money was missing, time was needed, or someone wanted a favor that crossed a line, it landed on me. For a long time, I let it. Maybe because I grew up hearing that artists were unstable, selfish, unrealistic. Maybe because every dollar I made felt like proof I had to earn my place twice. Maybe because when people spend years acting like your work is a cute little hobby, you start over-explaining yourself to everyone. Then I met Vanessa. She was warm when she wanted to be, funny in public, smart in that polished, careful way that made other people relax around her fast. She had 2 kids from her first marriage, Noah and Lily, and I got attached to them before I even admitted to myself how serious I was about her. That is also important, because if this story had only been about me getting played, I probably would have walked away sooner. But when kids are involved, you tell yourself to be patient. You tell yourself maybe stress is talking. You tell yourself maybe love looks messy in real life. At first, things between us looked normal. Better than normal, actually. She said she admired that I built my career from nothing. She said it was rare to meet a man who creates something real. When she said that, I believed her. Then one night, sitting at my kitchen counter while I was cleaning brushes, she said very casually, "Babe, the family vacation is canceled. We're having financial issues right now." I looked up. What happened? She gave that small, tired laugh people use when they want sympathy without questions. It's just everything at once. School fees, car stuff, their dad is late again. The economy is a mess. I can't justify a vacation right now. She leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. "I already told the kids we can't go," Lily cried. Noah just shut down. I remembered the water still running over my hands, blue paint sliding into the sink. The kind of ordinary detail your brain stores because the moment feels bigger than it should. "That sucks," I said. She nodded like she was holding herself together by force. I hate feeling like I'm failing them. That line got me, because my own childhood was full of adults weaponizing money. Shame with receipts, love with conditions. So when I heard that, something in me reacted fast. "You're not failing them," I told her. She looked at me with glossy eyes. "Easy for you to say. You didn't promise 2 kids Hawaii and then have to take it back." Hawaii. That stuck in my head because it sounded big. Bigger than the financial problems she'd been hinting at for weeks. Bigger than, "We need to be careful." Bigger than the version of broke she wanted me to picture. Still, I didn't push. I dried my hands. I pulled her in. I told her it would be okay. And right there is the truth I hate most. I wanted to be the safe place so badly that I ignored the part of me that felt something was off. Over the next few days, she brought it up again and again, not directly asking for help, just circling the wound. "Lily keeps asking if we can go next year." Noah pretended he didn't care. That's worse, somehow. I'm so embarrassed. I feel like such a bad mom. Each time, I said the same things. "You're doing your best. It's one trip. They'll survive." But inside, I felt that familiar old pressure building. The one that says if you love people, you fix things. If you have more, you share. If you can help and don't, what kind of man are you? That pressure had rolled half my life. One Friday, we were at dinner with my sister Marcy and her husband. Nothing fancy. Pasta place. Loud room. Cheap candles on the tables trying hard to look expensive. Vanessa was quiet all evening. Marcy noticed first. "You okay?" Vanessa gave a sad smile. "Just mom stuff." Marcy laughed. "That bad?" Vanessa stirred her drink and said, "I had to cancel the kids' vacation because finances are ugly right now." Marcy winced. "Oh no." Then Vanessa glanced at me. Not a full look. Just enough. My stomach tightened. My sister turned to me with that expression I knew too well, the one that already assumed I would step in somehow. "Darrow," she said softly, "don't tell me you're letting her go through that alone." I stared at her. Vanessa immediately jumped in. No, he's been amazing. I would never put that on who." That should have relieved me. Instead, it felt like a stage direction. I smiled because everyone was watching. But something cold moved through me for the first time. Not anger. Not yet. Just the feeling that a script was being written around me. I went home that night, stood in my studio, and looked at a half-finished portrait on the easel without seeing it. The room smelled like linseed oil and turpentine. My phone glowed on the work table with a text from Vanessa. "Thank you for always being there. I don't know what I'd do without you." I read it 3 times. Then I set the phone face down and told myself I was overthinking. I had no idea that was the last honest night I would ever have with her. Because a month later, while I was eating takeout alone in my studio after a 12-hour commission deadline, I opened Instagram. And I saw Vanessa smiling at a beach in Hawaii, Noah in sunglasses, Lily holding a shaved ice cup bigger than her face, palm trees behind them, sunset in the background. And the caption said, "So grateful we made this happen. Family memories matter more than anything." I just sat there holding a plastic fork, reading it again and again, like the words might rearrange themselves into something less disgusting. My chest went hot first, then cold, then, weirdly empty. I clicked through every photo, hotel balcony, ocean view, matching resort bracelets on the kids, Vanessa in a white dress I had never seen before, and in the last slide, her friend Tessa had tagged the location and written, "You deserve this after all the stress. Proud of you for pulling it off." I remember saying out loud, to nobody, "Pulling what off?" That was the real beginning. Not the beach photos, not even the lie. The moment I realized I had been standing inside someone else's performance and calling it love. And I still didn't know how much worse it was about to get. To explain why I didn't blow up right then, you need to understand what Vanessa and I looked like from the outside. We had been together a little over 2 years, engaged for 6 months. She worked in family logistics, which was how she described doing part-time admin for her cousin's real estate office, while also being the center of her kids' schedules, school lives, emotional weather, and every crisis within a 10-mile radius. She was very good at sounding overwhelmed in a way that made everyone around her feel selfish for having needs. I, meanwhile, was in the best stretch of my career. Not famous, not one of those artists people pretend they discovered after a magazine cover. Just steady, booked, respected. Finally earning real money after a decade of scraping by. Sleeping beside canvases because I could not afford a separate studio. And taking portrait jobs for people I couldn't stand, because rent was due. When I met Vanessa, I was just getting stable. That timing matters too, because people are much more willing to believe in your dream once the dream starts paying. Early on, she acted fascinated by my work. "Show me how you mix skin tones. Why do your hands get so stained? How can you look at a blank canvas and not panic?" I liked those questions. They felt sincere. She would sit in the studio doorway with a mug of tea and watch me paint while the kids colored at the little folding table I bought for them. Lily once got blue marker on one of my drop cloths and looked terrified. I said, "It's a studio. If nothing gets ruined, I'm doing it wrong." She laughed so hard at that she told the story for weeks. That was who I thought she was. And to be fair, maybe parts of it were real. That's what makes these things harder. Nobody falls for a villain monologue. You fall for little moments. Noah asking if he could help stretch a canvas. Lily telling me my dragons looked sad, but in a cool way. Vanessa bringing sandwiches when I was on deadline, and kissing the top of my head. That she was proud of me. I let them into my routines, then my finances improved, and the tone shifted so slowly, I almost missed it. At first it was tiny. Can you grab groceries on your way over? My card is acting weird. Do you mind covering dinner? I forgot I paid Noah's soccer fee. Can you spot me for the utility bill? I'll send it Friday. Friday became next week. Next week became, I'm so embarrassed I haven't forgotten. Then somehow the debt dissolved into the atmosphere like I was rude for remembering. It was never huge at first. 200 here, 400 there. A dress for Lily's recital, because she already got excited and I can't crush her. Help with school supplies. Help with a car repair. Help with a dentist copay. Help because their dad is impossible and I'm drowning. Every request came wrapped in guilt before I could even answer. I hate asking. You've already done so much. Please don't think less of me. That language is powerful because it forces you to reassure the person before you get to think. So I would say, it's fine. And she would exhale dramatically and answer, I swear I'll make it up to you. She almost never did. My family, of course, made it worse. My mother adored Vanessa from the start because Vanessa knew how to perform humility in exactly the way my mother trusted. She would compliment her cooking, laugh at her old stories, and call her Miss Nadia in a tone just respectful enough to feel intentional. My mother ate it up. She has grace, she told me once. My sister Marcy liked her because Vanessa always positioned herself as the exhausted, misunderstood woman holding everything together. Marcy has a savior complex when it comes to mothers, especially mothers who cry prettily, and Vanessa cried prettily. At birthdays, at school events, in parking lots, over bills, over ex-husband drama, over stress, always enough to look wounded, never enough to lose control. The first time I pushed back on money, we were in her kitchen. I had just paid for a weekend art camp Lily wanted, plus covered a chunk of her overdue rent because she said she was between disasters. I was doing dishes. She was opening mail. Vanessa, I said carefully, we should probably talk about budgeting. Silence. Then she set an envelope down very gently. What do you mean? I mean this can't keep happening with no plan. She turned around slowly. Wow. That one word. Flat. Injured. I dried my hands. I'm not attacking you. You kind of are. I'm asking for structure. She laughed once. Sharp. Structure. Okay. I'm raising 2 kids, juggling a flaky ex, working part-time, and trying not to lose my mind. And you want a spreadsheet? I should held the line. Instead, I softened. No. No, say it, she snapped. You think I'm irresponsible. I think this is stressful and we need to be honest. Her eyes filled instantly. I knew this would happen eventually. What would happen? You'd start keeping score. And there it was. The thing toxic people do when they feel the door closing. They move the conversation away from facts and onto your character. So now I was no longer asking where thousands of dollars were going. I was defending whether I was a selfish man. I hated that feeling because I knew it from childhood. I knew what it was like to have a real concern turned into proof that you were cruel, difficult, ungrateful, dramatic, cold. I backed off. She hugged me 10 minutes later and whispered, I'm sorry. I was just overwhelmed. I said, it's okay. That sentence cost me more money than any invoice ever did. The Hawaii lie happened about 4 months after that fight. By then, we had started talking seriously about combining lives. Not immediately moving in, but talking about houses, schools, marriage logistics, what the kids needed, what my studio setup might look like if we bought a place together. And here's where I need to be brutally honest about myself. I liked being meted. I liked the way Vanessa looked at me when I solved something. I liked that Noah listened when I taught him how to shade with charcoal. I liked that Lily ran into my arms without warning. I liked the version of me that existed around them, the dependable one, the calm one, the builder. So even when little things bothered me, I minimized them. Like how Vanessa never seemed to have money for regular life, but always had perfect hair, fresh nails, and new clothes from clearance that somehow still had luxury tax. Like how she said she was embarrassed to ask for help, but had no embarrassment asking me in front of other people. Like how she called me family whenever a bill was due, and complicated whenever I needed clarity. After the Instagram photos, I did something I'm not proud of, but also don't regret. I started digging. Not hacking, not sneaking into accounts, just paying attention. Dates, posts, comments, tagged locations, mutual friends, receipts in plain sight. And because liars rarely lie in one clean line, the picture got uglier fast. The Hawaii trip had been planned for months. Tessa had posted about counting down the 3 months earlier. A resort confirmation email had flashed in the background of one of Vanessa's kitchen selfies, 2 weeks before she told me the vacation was canceled. The week after telling me finances were too bad to travel, she had taken Lily to a boutique hotel brunch and tagged the dress company. When I remembered all the times she had cried over money in that same month, I felt physically sick. Still, I didn't confront her immediately. Why? Because by then I needed to know whether this was ordinary selfishness or something larger. The answer came faster than I expected. The Monday after she got back from Hawaii, she came by my studio in a cream blouse and jeans that probably cost more than my first month's rent in college. She looked amazing. That used to matter to me. Not that day. She came in smiling like nothing was wrong. Fist me, walked around the studio, complimented a canvas, asked if I'd eaten. Normal. Too normal. I kept waiting for guilt to show. Nothing. Finally I said, "How was your month?" She laughed softly. "Busy. Why?" That one hit like a slap. Not because she lied, because she lied with confidence. I averted her and thought, "You think I'm stupid." But I still said nothing. Then, a week later, she asked if we could have a serious conversation soon because she was under insane pressure. My stomach dropped. Pressure almost always meant money. She came over Sunday evening after the kids were with their father. Rainy night, gray light, my studio windows rattling because the old frames hate weather. She sat on the couch and folded her hands. "I need to ask you something big." There it was. I stayed standing. "Okay." She looked down first. Good acting choice. I've been trying to handle this on my own. My pulse was already up. "What is it?" She inhaled like she was about to say someone had cancer. "I need $200,000. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain rejected it on impact. "What?" She lifted her head, offended already. "Please don't react like that. Vanessa, you just asked me for $200,000. It's not for me." That lie was so immediate, so automatic, I almost admired it. "Then what is it for?" She started talking fast. Debt restructuring. An investment opportunity tied to her cousin's real estate office. A property situation. A legal issue with her ex. A trust for the kids. Every sentence was blurry, complicated enough to sound important, vague enough to avoid substance. I held up a hand. "Stop." She stopped. I asked, very quietly, "Why would you need that much money?" Her face hardened for half a second before the softness returned. "Because I thought you loved us." Us. Always us when she wanted access. I sat down then because I suddenly understood that the amount wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was how entitled she felt to ask. As if this were a difficult but reasonable next step in our relationship. As if I were a vault with feelings. "You lied to me about money," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "The canceled trip." Nothing. Then a blink. Then indignation. "That is seriously what this is about?" I stared at her. She leaned back like she had caught me being immature. "Daryl, my kids needed that trip. I figured it out. Isn't that a good thing?" "With whose money?" "That is none of your business." I felt something inside me go still. Not explode. Not break. Just lock into place. Because that sentence told me everything. My money was our business. Her money was private. My sacrifice was expected. Her choices were protected. And still, she sat in my studio, asking for $200,000 like I owed her a grateful yes. That was the moment I knew this wasn't a relationship in trouble. It was a transaction I had mistaken for love. I didn't throw her out that night. That would have been the emotional version. Clean, loud, satisfying for 5 minutes. Instead, I said, "Come back Tuesday. I'll have an answer." She froze. Then her whole body changed. Shoulders dropping. Voice softening. "Really?" I nodded once. "Yes. Tuesday." She stood and came toward me carefully, like I was a skittish animal. "Babe," she whispered. "Thank you. I knew you'd understand." She kissed my cheek. I let her. That disgusted me later, but I let her. After she left, I sat in the dark studio for almost an hour. No music, no painting, just the hum of the old fridge in the back and the traffic outside. Then I did 3 things. First, I printed every screenshot, the Hawaii photos, the tagged comments, the countdown posts, the resort confirmations visible in the background, her texts about financial issues, her messages about being humiliated and broke, her requests for money, all of it. Second, I asked my accountant to come by Tuesday evening, under the excuse that I needed him to review a large transfer request. He is a quiet man named Leon, who has seen enough rich people nonsense to stop being surprised by anything. When I explained the situation, he took off his glasses and said, "You are not giving her $1. No good." Third, I called my sister Mercy, not because I wanted comfort, because I wanted one witness from my side of the family. I told her enough to get her there. Not everything. She arrived on Tuesday already irritated. "If this is some dramatic breakup scene, I swear." "Sit down," I said. She sat down. At 7:10, Vanessa arrived. Hair done. Makeup perfect. Soft pink blouse. Nude heels. Looking more like someone about to close on a house than someone in financial ruin. She smiled when she saw Leon and Marcy, but it faltered. "What's this?" I said. "You wanted a serious answer. You're getting one." She looked at Marcy. "Why is she here?" Marcy crossed her arms. "Now I want to know that too." Vanessa turned back to me, already defensive. "Daryl, I thought this was private." "It was," I said, "until you made a $200,000 ask after months of lying to me." Her face went blank, then offended. "I did not lie to you." I slid a folder across the table. "Open it." She looked at me for a long second, then opened it. I watched the exact moment she saw the first Hawaii photo, then the second. Then the printed text where she told me the family vacation was canceled because of financial problems. Her lips parted. No sound. Marcy leaned forward. "What is that?" I answered without taking my eyes off Vanessa. "Proof." Vanessa tried to recover fast. "This is insane." "Is it? You stalked me." I laughed once. "Public Instagram isn't stalking." She looked at Marcy. "He's twisting this." Marcy took the folder, flipped through it, and her face changed. "Vanessa," she said slowly, "you told all of us you couldn't afford groceries." Vanessa snapped. "You don't know the whole story." Leon finally spoke. "Then, by all means, tell it." That rattled her more than the rest of us. Because calm people with paperwork are much harder to manipulate than emotional people with history. She set the folder down carefully. "Fine. Yes, we went. I made it happen. I don't need to justify giving my kids money." "No," I said, "you need to justify asking me for $200,000 a month later." Her eyes flashed. "You have that money." There it was. The cleanest sentence of the night. Not need, not emergency, not partnership. Access. Marcy actually muttered, "Oh my God." Vanessa turned on her. "Don't act superior. He throws money around for everyone. That doesn't make you entitled to it." Marcy shot back. Vanessa stood up. "You know what? I don't need this." I reached into the drawer beside the table, pulled out a large envelope, and slid it toward her. "Take this instead." She paused. Even then, greed beat caution. She grabbed it, opened it. Inside was not a check. It was a formal packet, a notarized notice, and in our engagement. A ledger of every major transfer and expense I had covered over the course of our relationship. A statement revoking access to any shared plans, bookings, deposits, and authorized vendor discussions. And on top of it all, one printed page in large type. "I am not your bank. I am not your backup plan. Do not contact me for money again." She stared at it. Her face lost all color. Actually lost it. She swayed once. Marcy stood up halfway, Mega thinking Vanessa was acting. Then Vanessa dropped. Straight down. Not dramatic with a scream. Just gone. Her shoulder hit the rug. Her head missed the table by inches. For one frozen second, nobody moved. Then Marcy shouted, "Oh my God!" Leon was already kneeling beside her, checking if she was conscious. I stood there, heartbeat pounding in my ears, and thought one clear thing. She fainted, because for the first time, the script had stopped working. When Vanessa opened her eyes again, maybe 30 seconds later, she looked around in confusion, then remembered. And the first thing she said was not, "What happened?" It was, "You humiliated me." I looked down at her and answered, "No, I interrupted you." That ended it. Not the paperwork, not the fainting, that sentence. Because everything after that was just fallout. The first 48 hours were ugly. Vanessa texted 13 times the first night, then called 9 times, then switched to voice notes, which I did not open. Then came the long paragraphs. "You blindsided me. You let your family gang up on me. The kids are devastated. I can't believe this is who you are. After everything I shared with you, after everything you promised," that phrase kept showing up. After everything you promised. Interesting wording from someone who had built half the relationship on selective truth. I blocked her around midnight. Then I blocked the backup member she used. Ben, email. Then social media. By morning she had moved on to indirect pressure. My mother called first. "Daryl," she said in that slow, disappointed tone. "What did you do to Vanessa?" I laughed. "That's your opening line?" She is beside herself. Good. Silence. Then, "That is not how I raised you." I leaned against the sink, staring at an unwashed coffee cup. "Actually, Mom, this is exactly how you raised me. You raised me around people who used guilt as currency. I just finally stopped paying." She gasped at that like I had slapped her through the phone. Then came the greatest hit list. "She's a single mother. You embarrassed her in front of witnesses. You should have spoken privately. Women under pressure say things they don't mean." I said, "She asked me for $200,000 after lying to me for months." My mother lowered her voice. "Well, did she need it?" That one told me the disease ran deeper than I wanted to believe. My answer was simple. "She will not get another cent from me." Then I hung up. Marcy surprised me. I expected some version of, "You were right, but maybe you were too harsh." Instead, she came by with coffee and a bag of pastries, and said, "I'm sorry I helped normalize that." I looked at her. "That's not like you." "I know," she said. "That's probably why I mean it." We sat in the studio for an hour while she watched me stretch a new canvas. At one point she said, "The worst part wasn't even the money. It was how sure she was that you'd say yes." Exactly. That was the violation. Not the ask, the assumption, the certainty that my love, my history, my attachment to her kids, my old habit of rescuing people, all added up to one inevitable result. Access granted. For the first week after the breakup, I felt like garbage, not regret. Withdrawal, that's different. I missed the routines, the texts about random school drama, Lily's drawings left in my studio, Noah asking if we could work on his comic idea, the little family shape of it all. People don't talk enough about how setting a boundary can still feel like grief. You can be right and still feel wrecked. I walked into the studio one morning and found a cheap plastic cup in the corner with 2 hardened paintbrushes inside. Lily had left them there weeks earlier, after pretending to clean up like a real artist. That almost broke me more than the confrontation did, because I loved those kids, and I still do, in a way. But living children connected to a manipulative adult is not a contract to fund the adult forever. That was one of the hardest things I had to learn. A week later, Vanessa's ex-husband called me. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. His voice was awkward. "Hey, I know this is weird." I said nothing. He exhaled. "I'm not calling to start anything. Vanessa is telling people you abandoned the kids and cut off support you promised." Support. Promised. Say more again. I closed my eyes. "She asked me for $200,000, I said. Long silence. Then he gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "Wow, she really scaled up." I pushed off the table. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. "It means this is not new. That conversation lasted 30 minutes, and it rearranged a lot of things in my head. According to him, Vanessa had a pattern: escalating emotional dependence, framing financial asks as urgent and morally loaded, using the kids as emotional leverage without technically lying in ways easy to prove, burning through one helper, then moving to the next. I asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" He said, "Because Noah told me you looked sad lately and kept asking if he did something wrong. I figured I owed you the truth." That hit me harder than anything else that week. Noah thought he had caused the breakup. Of course he did. Children almost always blame themselves before they blame the adult. I sat with that for a long time after the call ended. Not because it changed my decision, because it reminded me how carefully damage spreads in these systems. The next month was quiet on the surface. Not truly quiet. Just the kind of quiet where people are talking about you in other rooms. I heard bits through family, through mutuals, through one gallery contact who meant well and said too much. Vanessa was telling people I had become cold since making real money. That success had changed me, that I had punished a struggling mother for trying to protect her kids, that I had paraded legal documents in front of her like some kind of tyrant. Funny. When you rescue people, you're generous. When you stop, you are abusive. A month after the breakup, I made 3 practical changes. I hired Leon's firm to review every place my finances touched other people. I updated my will, and I opened a separate LLC for future large commissions and intellectual property licensing. This was not paranoia, it was peace. I also worked more, not to numb out, to return to myself. I'd painted a series of large canvases that summer, unlike anything I had done before. Hard edges, brutal color, empty domestic spaces, with tension sitting inside them like smoke. A collector bought 2 before the show even opened. A museum curator emailed asking to visit the studio. For the first time in years, my work felt fully mine again, not interrupted by crisis texts, not measured against someone else's emergencies, not guilt-funded. Just mine. My family noticed the shift before I said a word. My mother complained I was less available. Marcy shut that down immediately one Sunday at lunch. "No," she said. "He's just not running a crisis hotline anymore." I almost smiled into my coffee. Then, unexpectedly, my uncle, the same one who used to joke that I'd always figure it out, pulled me aside after dessert and said, "Took you long enough?" I blinked. "You knew?" He shrugged. "I knew enough. Women like that don't ask. They calculate." Not the most poetic thing anyone has ever said to me, but not wrong. The real aftermath showed up in smaller ways. I slept better. I stopped checking my phone with dread. I stopped budgeting for other people's chaos. I stopped confusing being useful with being loved. That one was huge. I started saying no faster, without 6 paragraphs of explanation. A cousin asked to borrow money for a restaurant idea. No. My mother hinted that Marcy was overwhelmed and I should help with a private school deposit. No. A gallery partner tried to guilt me into discounting a commissioned piece because the buyer was going through a separation. No. Every no felt cleaner than my last. Not cruel, clear. There's a difference. About 3 months later, I ran into Vanessa once. Farmers market. Saturday morning, I was buying peaches. She saw me before I saw her. She looked good from far and away. Put together. Controlled. Then she got closer and I could see the strain under it. "Daryl," she said. I nodded once. "Vanessa?" She looked like she expected more. When it didn't come, she smiled sadly. "You really erased me." "No," I said. I removed access. Her face tightened. "Do you know how harsh that sounds?" "Yes." She folded her arms. "The kids ask about you." I believed that, and it hurt. But I had learned enough by then to hear the hook inside the sentence. So I answered carefully, "I hope they're okay." "That's it? That's all I have for you." She stared at me for several seconds, waiting for the old version of me to appear. The apologetic one. The explain yourself one. The maybe we can fix this one. He didn't. She finally said, "You used to be kinder." I laughed at her and said, "I used to be easier to use." Then I picked up my peaches and walked away. My hands were shaking when I got back to the car, not because I had made the wrong choice, because I had made the right one without wavering. That was new. That was the real aftermath. Not revenge, not public ruin, not some dramatic victory lap, just the quiet, unfamiliar strength of no longer negotiating my worth, of people who saw love as leverage. It has been a year now, long enough for the adrenaline to wear off, long enough for my family to stop acting like I had survived the temporary episode of selfishness, and accept that something had actually changed, long enough for me to see the story clearly. For months after the breakup, I kept replaying certain scenes in my head. Vanessa at my sink saying the trip was cancelled, Vanessa on that beach, smiling into the sun. Vanessa at my table, asking for $200,000, like the answer was already hers. And the strangest part was not how angry those memories made me. It was how obvious they looked once I stopped defending her. That's the trap, I think. Not just manipulation. Participation. The way you help build the version of reality that hurts you because the truth would cost too much to admit. I did that. I explained away contradictions because I loved being needed. I treated discomfort like a personal flaw instead of information. I confused generosity with loyalty, loyalty with love, and love with obligation. That chain will ruin you if you let it. I still paint in the same studio. The windows still rattle in bad weather. There's still paint on the sink that no cleaner fully removes. But the room feels different now, lighter. Not because life is perfect, because it is no longer crowded with someone else's manufactured emergencies. A few months ago, Noah mailed me a drawing through his father. Just a folded piece of paper, a dragon, badly proportioned in the best way, breathing blue fire over a castle. No note, just my name on the envelope. I cried when I saw it. Not because it reopened anything, because it confirmed something. The connection I had with those kids was real. What was false was the system built around it. And that distinction matters. A lot. My mother still occasionally says things like, "You could have handled it more gently." Maybe. But gentle had already been tried. Gentle was the language people used, while taking and taking and taking. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is stop cushioning the impact of your boundary for the person who kept ignoring it. Here's the moral. Since stories like this need one, and I finally earned mine, helping someone financially does not prove they love you. Being needed is not the same as being valued. And the moment someone treats your resources like an entitlement instead of a gift, the relationship is already in danger. I used to think boundaries were harsh. Now I think they are expensive only to people who benefited from your lack of them. So no, I didn't hand my fiancée $200,000. I handed her the end of the arrangement she had mistaken for a future. And yes, she fainted. But that wasn't because I destroyed her. It was because, for one single second, she had to face a world where my answer was no. Mine. Clear. Final. These days, I work, I paint, I sleep, I eat when I'm hungry, instead of when some crisis allows it. And I keep my private life private. That feels good. Better than heroic, better than needed. Peaceful. And after the kind of love that keeps sending you invoices, peace is worth more than any amount anyone could ever ask for.